think it was a Honda. I run another lot to get through the night. Scared as shit, but I know that I'm alright. We were 17, pure like kerosene. You protected me, you were my sunscreen. I run another lot to get through the night. Scared as shit, but I know that I'm alright. We were 17, pure like kerosene. You protected me, you were my sunscreen. You protected me, you were my sunscreen. I'm running out of karma. I don't think that I'll make it any longer. But with you by my side, I feel stronger than I've ever been before. I feel stronger than I've ever been before.
Hello and welcome to tonight's stream. My name is Robert Hazelden from 200D Sports, and I'll hand you over now to our commentary team, Daniel Backton and myself.
G'day everybody. Welcome to round 3 here at Suzuka for the PROCAR GT Championship. We had a great round 2 at Spa, so looking to continue on here, Robert, with 22 cars. I think it's going to be a pretty good race. The guys struggling a little bit with track limits in practice and qualifying. So it's going to be one of those ones where they have to practice, in many regards, slowing down to go faster. You know, just got to work your way through some of these corners around the back section of the circuit. Of course, 130R, probably the most famous corner on the circuit as we sweep back towards the start line. But especially through the Dunlop curve, the S curve up the hill, to be able to get up through there is pretty difficult. So it's going to be interesting for the opening lap and for the rest of the race to see who can be able to put in consistent lap times and maybe bring home a result in their class.
Absolutely. It looks like Dan Smith is leading the way in qualifying with a 1:57.9.
He is, yeah. Dan Smith, he's put in a bit of time and practice this week in the South Gundagai automotive car. A massive supporter of PROCAR GT Season 3. Behind him is Proctor, who's put in a 1:58.3, so not a huge amount of time between them, and then there's a fair few cars in the 58s. So it looks like actually, 6-7 of our main cars, and Tim Weston down in 7th place. I know, speaking to Tim before the event, he was focusing on just being able to get himself a good qualifying position and make sure he was there at the end. It's a long race, of course, 100 minutes for these guys, and it just means that you need to settle in, make sure that you get your rhythm going. Dave Oliver picks up where he left off, of course, our defending champion in GT3 in the Mercedes, and he is now on pole for that one with a 201.9. 0.3 of a second back to Brett Smith, and then Dimitri Agathos behind, who has switched to the Mercedes after being in the Ferrari for the first couple of rounds. So he'll lose his championship points to now and have to continue on with the Mercedes and see if he can fight himself back into position. Then we've got Dion Jarvis continuing on in the Ferrari. Behind him we've got Russ Green, Michael Budge, Martin Hallinan, Daniel Collins, John Hovey, Damon May and Travis Annabelle rounding up the GT3 field in another Ferrari. So a bit of a mix of Ferraris and BMWs in the GT3 field. Ferraris, BMWs, Mercedes, and then in the GTE field we've got a fair few in the Porsches to try to get themselves some good times. So you can see Proctor, though, running the BMW. He's been running that for about a season and a half now, really getting his head around it on the front row of the grid. So the guys waiting for the grid up to finish. We've got about 50 seconds until they will roll away under the control of the iRacing safety car. I need to say a big thanks to all of our sponsors who make sure that we can go racing with PROCAR GT. Of course, you can see OzTrack on the front of the Porsche and all of the cars, actually, as we take this helicopter shot and see them all sitting there 2x2 ready to go. But OzTrack, massive supporters. Herbie Motorsport with us as well. Then you've also got Primal Joe's Coffee. If you need a coffee, get down to Cronulla if you're in Sydney and grab yourself a Primal Joe's. They've been really great supporters of the category and the racing here for these guys. And then, of course, all of our other supporters as well. As we scroll through, there's Proctor. He's looking to try to get the jump. It's going to be interesting, I think, between these cars at the front. They'll all be looking to just get the jump away here and try to get them some clear running. I've just noticed that fast repairs are on, so unfortunately we generally don't give the guys a fast repair, but it looks like they've all got them on. So maybe a few cars coming back into the race here. Ultimately you don't want to use it anyway because you will end up way down the order.
Dan, do you think we're going to see Proctor sneak up a little bit towards the end of the race like he's been doing, or do you think he's going to go hard from the
I think he wants to get his head down and go here. He's really keen on just seeing what he can do and get away. You can see our GT3 pole sitter Dave Oliver, wily campaigner, he's backed up the GT3 field. He will have control of them, but once the green lights go out, he will have to control what's happening into that final chicane. So we'll have to see what happens there as Dan Smith leads them down to the green light, and we have them away. And Dan Smith with the jump, and you can see Garth Duffy behind getting the jump as well, and Proctor now fighting back on the outside. So the GTE guys running down into turn 1 and 2. A long constant radius corner. You've got to wipe off a lot of speed into the middle of it and try to focus on the drive back out. We see there in the middle of the shot the two teammates as well coming through. That was Holm just in front, and look at Dave Oliver. He has got the jump away as they come down to turn 1 for the GTE field. Who's in front there actually? Someone has got himself in front of the group. I'm not sure, my timing hasn't updated yet with the cars in the right order.
It looks like
so,
at the front.
Oh no, Dave Oliver is running a livery similar to Dimitri Agathos, I would suggest. Oh no, it is Dimitri Agathos, so I don't know how he's come out in front, but he has. I wonder if there's been some little sneaky thing going on there, because I think Dimitri might have started from the pit lane and has come out in front of the group. Oh no, he hasn't. He started from the lane, started from second place. So what's going on as they've come out of the chicane? Dave Oliver's jumped, Dimitri's gone to the outside, he's just driven away on the green. So none of the rest of the GT3 field has thought about that for season 3 we start on the green light. They've all stayed behind the rest of Dave Oliver in the front. So now that's given Dimitri Agathos the lead of GTE, and he will now try to power away in front here as we see the gap that he has got in the early stages as they come to the final section before that big long straight back to the main start line to complete the first lap. A couple of minutes down for 100 minutes of racing.
We've seen Dimitri Agathos come unstuck a little bit in the Ferrari, usually putting
it
on drive.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to seeing what he can do in the Mercedes.
He's been able to showcase his talents in the Ferrari, of course holding on to it for a lot longer than many of us as we take this great rear angle here to look back at Brett Smith chasing him down. But now in the Mercedes, a little bit less speed for Dimitri, but he's finding it just a lot more comfortable to be able to maintain his times, keep the tyres under him. Of course, everybody with only one set of tyre change for 100 minutes here, so you've got to make sure to look after them. It's a little bit warmer out there for the drivers at the moment. What have we got? 22 degrees. The track is at 47 degrees, and we're sitting at 12:30 in the afternoon. So it's only going to get warmer for them as this race goes on, and ultimately, with only a one-time what do you call it? Weather variable. 1x weather variable. It's not going to change a whole lot. This race will finish at about 2 p.m. local in Suzuka, which means we'll be running through the heat of the day compared to last time where it got cooler and cooler. So tyre management is going to be something to keep an eye on. A relatively clean opening lap and a half here as we see Dan Smith leading the way in the South Gundagai automotive car. No doubt happy to have that little gap over Proctor, and I dare say Duffy has dropped back here because we saw Duffy get the jump and get up into second place in the early stages of the race, but now he is sitting a little bit further back, so I think he might have had an issue on the opening lap and fell down the order a little bit. We'll have to see what's going on with him there. try to get to the bottom of that one.
Now, I'm not sure if there's an issue with the time or something, but my timing is saying we have about an hour and 40-minute race tonight.
Yeah, that's correct. 100-minute races for the guys this season.
Wow.
So
Okay.
long races for them to get themselves in a rhythm and try to maintain what they can do. So yeah, Duffy has slipped back a little bit here in the early stages, but nothing in the opening laps looking untoward for him. It just looks like he might not have had the pace down the straight. Oh no, he's run wide on the first lap on the big sweeper to come back towards down the main straight. Of course, that corner known as Spoon Curve, and he's had an off there, and that's dropped him back 3 positions. So Learson currently in front of him, and then the rest of the team Yellow Mellow Lemonade Racing, Capron and Holm in identical cars, which confused us all last week at Spa, and will no doubt keep continuing to confuse us here this week at Suzuka as we settle into a rhythm. So yeah, 100 minutes racing for the guys. You can do it as a team or individually, so some of them do it solo. There's been a couple of guys who have done team efforts, so the Greens are using it as an opportunity to keep themselves in championship contention as a team, while also being able to drive week on week, so they don't always have both of them in the race. And just, you know, the idea was to be able to, everybody wanted a bit of longer racing. We're all online anyway waiting for a 9 o'clock start or things like that, so why not just bring it back a little bit and give ourselves a longer race, and then also open up the team aspect, because as some of our bin chicane racing, which is the team for PROCAR GT, and the guys have been really enjoying swapping the car and working together to get that good result at the end of an endurance race. So by increasing the length of the race, it seems like we've also cleaned up the beginning of the race, as everybody's a little bit nicer and, you know, more willing to get into a rhythm. You can just see Tim Weston sitting behind these guys there. That's Colby Cohen behind Garth Duffy. Duffy, for some reason, on our timing has dropped all the way down, and now Colby Cohen's got past him. So Duffy must be having issues in the early stages, or he's decided that what he's going to do is focus on tyre management. You can see the Primal Joe's on the roof of his car there. So big thanks to Primal Joe's, of course. Good to have a coffee and settle in and watch this racing. We've also got to do a big shout out to Proof of Air and Gas and Darren Smith, our regular commentator. He'll be back with us shortly, having a couple of weeks off as he does some other things down in Victoria under lockdown. But we look forward to seeing Darren back in the commentary box here and having a chat through these races. No doubt he'll have got himself a Primal Joe's and get himself all pumped up with some Proof of Air and Gas as well, and be ready to go again as we see this little battle group. They're on at the moment, and Colby Cohen has the upper hand. Tim Weston right behind, and then just behind that you've got Trav Mason and Nico Filippetto a little bit further back in a pair of BMW and Ferrari. Those guys struggling at Suzuka this week. We take onboard from the roof of Tim Weston in the TME car. Of course, our defending champion from PROCAR Season 2 missed round 1 at Le Mans, so he's a little bit back in the championship standings. But I think we'll be able to watch him come through. He'll just be playing the long game. That's the thing that these two drivers on your screen do really well. Weston and Duffy, they both know how to play the really long endurance game. Don't get ahead of themselves, just make sure that they get settled into a rhythm. And while others try to charge away, oh, Duffy with a massive slide there. You just saw it from on top of Tim Weston's car, so Garth Duffy really struggling with the rear of that Porsche in the early stage of this race. We're only a couple of laps into it, 10 minutes into the race, so still 90 minutes left to go. He just needs to settle down and make sure that he keeps lapping. At the front, we've got a race on. Smith has put in a 58.7 for his last lap and trying to chase him down. Anthony Holmes done a 58.8, so Daniel Smith running away with it out in front. He's got 3 seconds gap at the moment. Last round at Spa, Smith underfueled the car. He thought he might be able to get himself through another lap and extend the next fuel window. And unfortunately for him, that just was not the case. As we go and look at GT3, and that is Brett Smith going very, very slowly as Hooney down the inside, and he tags him. So Jonathan Hovey with a big touch onto the back of Brett Smith. You just saw it before he cut away. And we'll have to see what's going on there because Jonathan Hovey came in. No, it wasn't Jonathan Hovey, sorry. It was, I've miscalled that. Let's have a look. It might be Michael Budge. It is. Bouger coming in late and just ploughing into Brett Smith. I wonder if that was payback for Spa at the end of last year. Smith rotated the vehicle and ended up on Bouger's line, and Bouger's gone, alright mate, I can line you up this time, and Wampa straight in inside of him. So the reason Brett Smith was in that position though was he had got to run around the outside of Dimitri Agathos in 130R. I'm not sure if there was contact between the two of them. I'm just going back and having a look at the replay here. Dimitri Agathos had the inside line. Brett Smith has decided to go to the outside of him, and just a little bit of net code between the two of them as they ran through that one, and that has put Brett Smith off and into the wall, and he is going to have to now to have a long comeback. At least he's got about 70 minutes to be able to do something about it, but I dare say that he's got a little bit of damage that he'll be having to drive through and get himself back to the pits. You can see I think we're on board with Michael Budge here as he comes down the back section of the circuit. We are. He's got a bit of damage on the front of his car. So Dimitri Agathos now with a comfortable lead yet again to Dave Oliver. That was a big moment between the GT3 runners as we look at the battle for second, and Anthony Holm has passed Proctor here for second place. So this is actually the battle for third. So Proctor has dropped back and now is coming under pressure from James Capron. Daniel Learson behind, and Colby Collins closed the gap as well. So plenty going on in the early stages of this race. The guys have got a fast repair to be able to use this round. We've been having them turned off for most rounds, but unfortunately the person setting up our servers is just not reliable enough, and he needs to get a bit more skill under his belt. That would be me setting them up. That would be because I've set the server up and somehow missed ticking the turn off all the fast repairs that we have in practice, because of course during practice you can have as many fast repairs as you want to get back out there. It's all about learning the track. And we take the onboard splitter cam here with James Capron as he chases down Proctor. There's only, 0.5 of a second between the two of them as they come through the back section of the circuit.
It's an awesome little battle here, and I'm just
We
did miss when Proctor was overtaken, so I'm wondering whether he backed off a little to save some fuel or something, or whether it was
I'm not sure if he's had an off or something's gone on, but no doubt Proctor would have just been looking at the long game and thinking about how he can just get himself to the end. All about those pit stops. There's probably going to be 2 pit stops for fuel. They've only got 75% of a tank of fuel available. Yeah, he just moved over on the straight and let Holm go. So he pulled to the inside just before 130R and let him go, and that's all he needed to do. And now there you go, Capron's also made the move. So now Capron's through on Proctor as well, and Proctor just making sure that he keeps the car straight. It's great the quality of drivers we have now in this series, that they all are focused on the end game of the race meeting as opposed to just trying to fire something down the inside. Proctor running a little bit wide through 130R, actually. I've called that wrong, so no doubt you saw it on your screens. I was just looking away at the timing at the moment that he did that. But Proctor always, as we talk about, he just waits for the end of the race, makes sure he's there. It looks like we dropped Colby Cowan from behind. I'll have to try to see what's happened to him. Yeah, he's dropped back into the clutches of Tim Weston, so maybe an off at turns 1 and 2. Yeah, big slide, massive slide through turn 1 and 2. He lost the rear of it, as we've seen a few of the Porsche guys have problems with. Maybe something's changed in the most recent update with the balance of the Porsche, and they're not able to throw it in as hard as they normally do. But so Colby Cohen now, when you see him on your screen, under pressure from Weston, who's dropped Garth Duffy. Duffy has fallen behind Trav Mason as well, so Duffy, with a few dramas in this race, he's lapping at the 2 minute mark, 2 minute 4 last lap, which would say to me, or 2 minute 1, sorry, last lap, which would say to me he's had some sort of off when everybody in front's doing 2 minutes and 1:59. So Not sure if Duffy's just struggling with Suzuka, doesn't really like the track, or what's going on as they come through the curve and onto the back straight yet again. Colby Cohen under pressure from the TME car. Have to see what he can do in the draft. It's a long straight, but it doesn't really open itself up to an opportunity to overtake, because 130R is really the place where the draft has worked for long enough. And then this is actually a really short shooter. Oh, Daniel Learson has made contact into the side of Adam Proctor, and Proctor is off in the chicane. These guys have just passed him, so Proctor with a bit of damage to the car now. We'll have to see what he decides to do. He might go to the pit lane. No, he doesn't. He's decided to stay out there. So Proctor, we see him now on our screen, he's fallen behind Duffy, and Daniel Learson just, I think, went with a really late break, trying to overtake in that short segment where I said it was a bit difficult. And he's come from a long way back, actually. I think he must have had a lock-up, because he's looked to the inside and just tagged Proctor. Not the most fantastic of moves, and we'll have to see what happens there with Daniel Learson, because he's got a bit of a drama with that one. But anyway, we'll see how the race continues to develop. As we see, there's Colby Cohen coming down now. He's opened up the gap again a little bit on Weston. Both these cars looking pretty clean at the moment, and they'll just be focusing on, as we keep saying, that rhythm. Tim Weston in the number 9 car, Team Tim Weston, just sitting in behind. It's all about that watching brief in the early stages of the race. We're only just coming up to 19 minutes into it, which in a sprint race you'd be trying to barge your way through and make your positions now if you had the opportunity. But at this point in time, it's about just settling into the rhythm. The guys should probably have another 10 laps of fuel, I would suggest. Their tanks are down to about 35, 36 odd litres, it looks like. So another 9 and a bit laps for most of these guys here, and then they'll be into the pit lane, and it'll be up to them to decide whether they take tyres or what the plan is. As Tim Weston, I think Tim might be just sitting in behind Colby here to get the draft, because if you can save that much draft down the straight, you'll be able to get your fuel number down. It looks like Daniel Learson has let Proctor back past. He's dropped back to fall behind Proctor.
Hey Dan, if you were in this race, what do you think you'd be going for? Do you think you'd be going for tyres, or what would your strategy be?
I haven't run any practice sessions, so I don't have a real read on the tyres. Last week at Spa I did a couple of the practice sessions with the guys, and I found that if you ran the tyres you'd get 38 odd good laps, and then after that you would just fall off a cliff and you lost too much time, so it was better to take the tyres. Our fastest guys last week all took front tyres to get to the end, so I think you may well try to double stint your fronts to start this race, because it's a lot more convenient to take the time in the middle of the race, especially with the temperature increasing, and then put on some fresh set towards the end and see what you can do. It's going to stretch out. Of course, we don't have a safety car, so it is just a pure 100 minutes of endurance. Hopefully our safety car driver will be back in a couple of weeks, currently with a bit of work on. So we'll see what we do, whether we reintroduce the safety car or just stay as a 100-minute sprint race. Of course, mostly this is about community. It's about coming together and racing together and having a good time on a weekly basis, and making sure that everybody sort of just gets to have some fun and enjoy their time together. It's more about clean racing than anything else. As we can see on our screen at the moment, Dimitri Agathos leading the way from Dave Oliver.
And he's holding that lead. I've been keeping an eye on him, looking back, and just to see if he would sort of roll back a little bit, but he's definitely maintaining the lead. Now in some of the other series that we broadcast, I have heard that there was a bit of an issue with the Mercedes this season. It was a little slower, I believe, than the previous season, but he doesn't seem to be having too much of a problem out there. No, so
from what we've been able to figure out, the Mercedes, yes, has had a little bit of a speed clipping of its wings.
If only Mercedes and F1 would have a bit of a speed clipping, right? Interesting racing, right?
The BMW itself hasn't gone too badly. It's probably dropped a bit of speed as well and a bit of mid-corner grip. And the Ferrari is quicker and probably the quickest car of the lot, but it's also the most temperamental and hardest to drive. So it's hard to tell, you know, what exactly you want to have happening here. So just having a look at the moment, we've got full gas leading the way. Behind that is Dave Oliver. Sitting in third is Dion Jarvis, newcomer to the ProCar GT Championship, and he is driving a Ferrari. There he is on screen. So Dion's done a fantastic job. Went under the radar at Le Mans, joined the group, and, you know, we're all super pleased to have another driver in amongst it. And at Le Mans went under the radar, then in Spa sort of drove through a little bit, and now to be sitting third in a Ferrari, brilliant job. His lap times are going just as well as everybody else around him at the moment. So let's see where he is. He's passed, it looks like he's passed Russ Green in the last lap as well, to be able to get himself in front of him. Sorry, my timing is a little bit delayed here to be able to understand what's going on. It's gone quite a significant delay really to what we're seeing on our screens. So having to try to play catch up at the moment. But yeah, so Dion Jarvis having a good run. Hopefully he can pick up some results. He'll be sitting comfortably in the GT3 Championship at the moment, and we'll be looking to bring home a strong season. Of course, we've still got a long way to go in our season as iRacing itself reaches week 13. We're only at week 3. We've got another 9 rounds to go. 9 rounds? Yeah, I think it's 9 rounds. I should know. The calendar is written by me, but with so much else going on at the moment, I haven't been able to keep across actually everything that I'd like to keep across with where we are at in championship land. So I'll crack open all of that information to be able to tell everybody what we've got. But yeah, Dion Jarvis having a great run as we look at Green behind him trying to chase him down. So Russ Green is in 4th place in the race at the moment. Behind him is Bouget, who we saw had that contact earlier on with Brett Smith, who has plummeted down the order. He is now trying to battle with Martin Hallinan. Martin based in Tasmania, as well as Adam, who has been missing out on this week, Adam Gardner. But at the moment, Brett Smith trying to make a run. Oh, Martin Hallinan wide through 130R. You just see them in the back of your shot, and now side by side between those two down into the chicane, and Brett Smith gets himself another position as he works his way back into this race. A little bit of damage on that car after that contact with Bouget, who is now sitting in behind. So we'll see how quickly Brett Smith catches up here. Of course, Brett is right at the top of our championship standings, so he has a bit to make sure that he keeps himself ahead of.
Now, speaking of Tasmania, do you know what's happening with the Real World Motorsport there at the moment? Are they able to race?
Yeah, they came back last week, so that's been pretty good. I think there was a few categories back in action down at Simmons Plains on the weekend, which saw a fair few cars come back out, which was really good to see. I'm not exactly sure of the results or anything like that, but you know, being able to see the guys come back to racing down there, they seem to be stabilising up what they're doing, and I think everyone's enjoying getting back out of the house after this long time away from the real track at the moment. So
fantastic. Well, if you were out there on the weekend and you got some photos, you got any news for us, pop it on down in the comments and let us know how everything went.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just taking a look as well at the championship points as we look at Hallinan here dropping away from Smith. So I think Smith might be pushing hard to see what he can do. We'll switch to Duffy and Proctor. Garth Duffy is actually leading GTE and the outright championship at the moment. 385 points in both of those championship chases. Anthony Holm is sitting in 2nd place. Equal championship leader actually after 2 rounds. So those two swapping how many points they got in rounds 1 and 2. So Anthony Holm and Garth Duffy together on points, which at the moment Holm will take the championship lead after sitting in 2nd place for 25 minutes into this race. So Holm at the moment leading the way. In GT3, Daniel Green is leading the championship, but he'll drop out of the lead of the championship after this round as he is not here at the moment. So Brett Smith is our effective leader, tied on points with Dave Oliver. the two of them picking up 5 bonus points each for fastest lap of the race so far this season. And with Dave Oliver sitting in second in GT3 and Brett Smith currently in 6th in GT3, it should be Dave Oliver who leapfrogs to the top of the standings. So a bit to play for between all of these guys as the race continues to tick its way around Suzuka. We're just about to reach the half-hour mark in the race. So still a fairly long way to go in the ProCar GT Suzuka round here for round 3 of season 3. We just see Colby Cohen, who's opened up a little bit of a gap on Tim Weston at the moment. They've passed Huvet to put a lap on him, of course, a GT3 car, so he doesn't need to worry about battling with them at this point in time, just needs to focus on his race. What was interesting actually at the end of last week's race, after we finished up speaking to all of the guys, is Colby Cohen with a big slide through turn 2. That's going to drop him a lot of time to Weston, and Weston will get back right up onto the gearbox here of the Porsche and be able to just hound him again. I dare say that Tim Weston and Garth Duffy are just hanging back here and waiting for this race to develop and seeing where it goes. And see what they can do to be able to get themselves right up there. It's a long, long way to go yet, with, 70 minutes still left of racing, which is a lot longer than most of the series you would do on the iRacing platform as itself. Oh, Tim Weston with a big slide, and he's made the fence as well. So Tim Weston, some sort of drama there, is going to regather, but he loses positions to Duffy, and Proctor is now on the back of him. So I'm not exactly sure what happened to Tim Weston there. I think he might have just got a whole lot of curb as he came out under the bridge.
That's very out of character for Tim Weston. From what we've seen in the past, he's usually very consistent.
Yeah, he's incredibly consistent and fast as well, and very light contact with the wall. It'll be interesting to see if it's done any damage to his steering. But the TME car now behind Duffy, you see this aerial shot as they come through the sweeper onto the back straight. Proctor sitting in behind. So that's moved around our top half of the GTE field. And coming at these guys slowly is Nick Filippetto as well. He's just eased himself into the race looking for championship points. So at the moment, Tim Weston chasing Garth Duffy. Proctor in behind him, sitting there ready to have a go. And I think these guys, it's showing that at the moment you need to try to limit your mistakes and just make sure that you stay on the track. Daniel Smith out in front is just pounding away, but everybody else needs to just focus on limiting their mistakes and seeing what they can do.
Only saving grace here is the remaining time in the race. Does mean there is a bit of a chance to make up some time, but
exactly.
Unfortunately, little mistakes like that are what cost race in the long run.
It's all about limiting your mistakes because, like, don't forget when you go endurance racing for some of the, let's say, iRacing endurance championships, you've just got to limit your time in the pit lane, and that ultimately leapfrogs you up the order. So you can be as fast as you want, but if you make a mistake and bin it, you might get yourself, repairs, a tow back to the pit, a slow lap back to the pit. Anything like that is going to cause you all sorts of drama. So the guys really just try to focus on not making a mistake, getting themselves back out there and making sure that they're staying on track and lapping. Circulating is the biggest thing in these endurance races, and you see here Tim Weston just sitting comfortably in the gap between Garth Duffy and Adam Proctor. And he'll now look to, I would say, make his way back past Garth Duffy because he probably has the pace on him, and then eke out a little bit of a breathing room gap. But that's definitely going to hand Colby Cohen a comfortable gap as well, to just have some breathing room. It changes how you drive the car when you don't have somebody on your tail. You're not glancing at the mirror, you're not looking around, you're not wondering where they are as they pull to the inside. Oh, Colby Cohen right in front of him as I speak. So I wonder if Cohen has had some sort of issue as well. And now we have a 4-car battle for what is 4th in the race, because he's dropped right back into the clutches here of Garth Duffy as they come down into this final chicane. Oh yeah, Colby Cohen with a massive slide through the sleeper onto the back straight, and that's dropped him all sorts of time. So Tim Weston enters the pit lane. He's the earliest, the first to blink here, and he has come down the lane to serve what will be his first pit stop. We'll see how long this pit stop goes for on the timing, which will give us a good indication of what he has done, whether he's just taken some fuel or he's taking tyres as well. I would highly doubt he's going to take tyres. I dare say he's decided to come in as early as he can in the pit stop window, take that fast repair. You see the guard pop out. Now he might have got away with one here because with the accidental fast repairs left on, he's been able to take that and not really serve any sort of massive penalty for making a mistake. He's dropped all the way to the back of the group, a 17-second stop, so he only took fuel. He's obviously decided to barrel into the lane at the first moment that he possibly could and be able to make it home on his strategy.
It might seem like he has an advantage with that fast repair, but he didn't have that much damage as opposed to someone who may total their car and get a free repair out of it. Now he's used that. He's spent it, so that could affect him later on.
Yeah, who knows what the race will play out like for these guys. We'll have to see as the race continues. Ultimately, we haven't had a lot of drama in this one. It's been mostly a race, and it will continue to be a race of attrition as we see the Nova-employment car of Dimitri Agathos continuing to lead the way over Dave Oliver. Now, Colby Combs had a massive slide at the final sweeper again as well. So I've just got another screen showing highlights. So poor Colby's dropped down here after a few dramas. He's had another slide where we saw him have a slide before, and he's obviously struggling with tyre life. Had a great battle with Proctor. He slid as well out at turn 1 and 2 to drop behind Duffy and then just in front of Proctor before having another slide around the sweepers. So those constant radius corners are causing problems for Colby Colm at the moment.
Are these cars set to a fixed setup, or are they able to customise them?
No, we're fixed baseline setups in the league. So we looked at going to open setups, had the long chats about that. There was a few guys who wanted to, but ultimately, with all of our guys being motorsport related in some way in the industry, or the races, or part of different groups, we ultimately decided that we'll go back to baseline to just give everybody the opportunity to race together in an environment that is a lot more comfortable. As Daniel Learson slides out at turn 1 and 2 as well on the crashes vision that we've got, he is dropped behind Nick Filippetto and towed back to the pits. So obviously a drama for him with that car, as he has got some problems now. Now Russ Green has started closing back in on Brett Smith here.
I think he's out. He's pulled out of the race.
He's pulled out of the race. So there you go. Daniel Learson has decided to have a quit out. Unfortunate for him. Probably a tough race after making contact with Proctor early on, and he'll drop down through the order.
Has he already used his fast repair early? Did he?
I'm not sure what he did actually. I didn't see him come to the pit lane before that. So
I hope he realised he had one available to him. He might have pulled out because of that crash.
Well, he might not have had it selected to be on, which then, of course, if you tow and pit, it'll still give you the repair time. So, got to make sure that it's selected and on. Just having a look down the order, though, Brett Smith and Russ Green are battling hard for position third in the race as it stands. So those two with a lot to play for, as we see Horn passing Damon May, who now goes a lap down. Damon May sitting 17th in the race. But yeah, Brett Smith and Russ Green are right together here. Brett Smith, I think, has just made the move on Green. Actually, now that I think about it, he's been charging his way back through after we saw those dramas in the early stages of the race for him. After making a pass, an attempted pass for the lead. I'm just rewinding through the race to have a look. I think he passed him on the last lap, did he? Yeah, he's been sitting just in front of Russ Green for a little while, so Green will be looking... Green had an off track. There we go. Green's run wide and lost the position a couple of laps ago. So, continues to show what we've been talking about this whole race. You've just got to stay on the island. But Suzuka, a very technical and difficult track for these guys. Everybody thinks it's just going to be a blast because of this section of the circuit here down the main straight, that you can just step on the gas and have a good time, but it's so tight and small and twisty as a circuit through the rest of it that it's actually very, very technical for all of the drivers to be able to keep themselves on the circuit. So a lot of drivers having little struggles, and just those little tiny 1%, 2% mistakes drop you a long way down the order. So now Russ Green has lost the position, and here they come down the pit lane. So obviously on the end of the fuel window as well, and we'll all come into the lane. We'll have to have a look at what the times look like. Yeah, everybody with flashing lights. Bouget's in. Everybody's in here. All of the GT3 runners, all the GTE runners look like they've run an extra lap. There's Hoovy in. DDD Motorsport, the pair of them are in. That's Dave Oliver in the first spot, and Dimitri Agathos sitting third.
People don't spend too much time on iRacing, that when they get back to a real race they think they can drive through cars in the pit lane.
Yeah, for sure. As Dimitri Agathos and Dave Oliver both took approximately 30-second stops, which would suggest fuel, with the GT3 cars having a bit of a longer fill. I think Brett Smith is under-fueled here to get himself back in a position. Only a 21-second stop for him. Russ Green and Bouget have both taken 29-second stops as well. So Brett Smith, I think, has rolled the dice on an under-fuel, and look for him to have to come in a little bit earlier than everybody else. We should have, 34 minutes into the race. Will take us to an hour and 8, which puts us 32 minutes from the end. So I would suggest that Brett Smith has underfueled by maybe a lap and a half to get himself leapfrogged up, and we'll have to see how that plays out for him as we see Colby Cole now with Russ Green behind, Bouget behind that. The GT3 field mixed in amongst it. Dion Jarvis has stayed out an extra lap compared to the rest of the field, and is currently in the head of the GT3 group at the moment. So Dion's looking to get his head down and do that extra lap, which will help open up the back end of the race for him. So file that one in your memory banks. Dion Jarvis just entering the pit lane now as we see Dimitri Agathos around the final sweeper. And Dave Oliver's had a shunt through the sweeper as well. What's happened there? I'm just going to be wondering. He's gone to the outside of Holm, I think, battling for position. And a little bit of a lock-up for the Porsche has shunted Oliver wide. So Oliver's going to lose a ton of time here. Not contact that needed to be made between the GTE and the GT3 runner. And that is going to lose him a bit of time. We'll have to see what Dion Jarvis is doing. If he's going to come out of the pit lane now in front of Dimitri Agathos, this will have implications for the race. He's still sitting in the lane. About 9 seconds left of the stop. And Dave Oliver, I'm not sure where he is, coming through the final chicane, I think. And
yeah, he's just coming down the straight now. They're going to pull next to each other, I think, or just after.
This is going to be right on for second place. Dave Oliver's just gone past, and Dion Jarvis exits the lane. He'll be just behind Brett Smith. So Smith, see there, the underfueling has helped him, and he's been able to get himself in front of Dion Jarvis, and Garth Duffy sweeps around the outside. And this is what starts to happen now. You have the GTE and GT3 machinery mixed in together, and then you've got to try to continue on with your lap pace and make sure that you can stay in your position and focus on your own race as well, which is incredibly difficult to do. But great work from Dion Jarvis there to bobble right up to the top of the group. It looked like he may well be able to take the position, but unfortunately for him, just not the case. As we look now, Dimitri Agathos breaks early to let James Kaplan go. James Kaplan's second place in the race here. Our GT3 runner Dan Smith has not pitted yet. Kaplan has been in. Anthony Hulme, pit lane. No, none of them have actually pitted of our leading GTE cars. So obviously the GTE cars are able to go that bit further on fuel. I was reading the off tracks as pit lane until I noticed that 2 or 3 times down the lane has not occurred yet for anybody. So Dan Smith with a massive lead in the front of this group. He's been able to just lap so much faster than everybody else in GT at the moment. His last lap was a 1:59. He'll probably come to the lane this time by. Really? No, he stays out yet again. While the car behind him did a 2:01. Anthony Hulme with a 2:05. As Daniel Smith comes across the line yet again in the South Gundagai Automotive Porsche and pulls another 1:59. So he's just lapping consistently and smooth out in front. It's enabled him to open a 15 second gap behind to James Capron. He's 1 minute and 8 ahead of the leader of GT3. So plenty of room there for him, as we see on the screen. James Capron coming around in clear air as well. Anthony Holmes sitting in 3rd place will be next to catch up to Dimitri Agathos, who's just behind Capron here, coming up the hill. And Dimitri continues to lead the way. Ever since he got that jump right at the start of the race, used the green light to his advantage. Of course, the rules are written this season that on the green light you go, and Dimitri Agathos used it, and away he went. Capron sitting in 2nd, 15 seconds to Dan Smith. You'd have to say it's going to become a fuel rain here amongst these guys, but Dan Smith without any pressure on is Anthony Helm, who we're actually with, in identical car to Capron. We need to really get one of them to run a slightly different colour so that we can tell who's who when they're on the screen. But Helm now needs to just work his way past Agathos. Agathos would be looking to let him go. He's got 10 seconds back to Dave Oliver, another couple of seconds back to Brett Smith, 16 seconds total back to Dion Jarvis. So 25 seconds splitting our top 6 runners in GT3. Bouger, Michael Budge sitting in 6th place in the class as we go on board for the run down through the sweeper here. And we'll come to this final corner. Double shot to the left before the big run down the straight. And that's Dion Jarvis, who we're on board with in the Ferrari. So you can see out of his front window, he can see the cars ahead of him, both Brett Smith and Dave Oliver. And all he needs to do is inch up a little bit. He's 4 seconds off Brett Smith at the moment. And all he needs to do is just get a little bit closer and he'll be in the tow. Brett Smith is probably just on the edge of the toe of Dave Oliver in the front, and be looking to charge his way through as well. It'll be interesting to see if the fuel strategy has worked for him. Dan Smith, our leader, has come down the lane. Anthony Horn down the lane as well. So that is good for them. Of course, it's not going to change the race very much with Dion Jarvis continuing to chase down these cars in front. But yeah, so a bit of work to do for the rest of the GT3 field to get back into this. Martin Hallinan is sitting further down than we probably would have expected, and 6th place now, 7th place now for GT3, comes down the main straight. You can see in the lane that's Anthony Hall at the moment. Dan Smith has returned to the track with a 24-second fuel-only stop, I would suggest. Nick Filippetto is also in the lane. It leaves James Capron, the teammate to Anthony Helm, who you can see on screen there, as the leader of the race as Nico Filippetto comes down. It looks like we might have Jonathan Hovey sitting in the lane. He's been in the lane for a fair while at this point, 19 and a half minutes.
I think he's done, according to the screen. He's greyed out, yeah. So I think he's done for the night. Something's
happened to Hovey. I'll have to try to figure out what's going on with that one. He's still sitting in the group chat, but he may well have been called away, of course. Often what happens in iRacing is, you know, family matters crop up, and you have to send him a message. Let's see what's happened with him there. I'm not sure that he's had any sort of accident. He may well have just pulled into the pit lane and that's been the end of it. He's had to stop for the evening. As we see, Dan Smith has worked his way past Russ Green, who is under pressure from Bouger. So I know that Bouger's focus was to keep the tyres under him. Of course, Michael Budge, a Vic V8 competitor from down south, locked away at the moment, which, you know, is probably not bad for Victoria, to be honest. We may well have to institute a keep Bouger locked up even after all of this ends, just because there's a bit of a terror with 58 minutes remaining all over the back of Green behind. As we see here, Martin Hallen coming under pressure as well from, I think that was Lindsay Kearns. So Green trying to keep Budge behind. They've both passed Kearns now, who has entered the pit lane. And let's see, what were their last lap times? Green a little bit quicker than Bouger, but it's ebbing and flowing between the two of them. They both pitted on lap 16, which is where all of our GT3 field pitted. So we'll see what happens as the race continues on. 57 minutes remaining in it. Still a long, long way to go. If you're in some of the other Enduros, you'd only have 57 minutes of 60 remaining. You'd probably still all be in amongst that early race shenanigans, but here we're a long way into it. We've settled into it. It's now about line and rhythm and making sure you can bring the car home. Now is the time where you've got to start thinking about that final pit stop. With 100 minutes of racing, it's just a little bit longer. You can see Green there, definitely feeling the pressure, run a little bit wide with Bouger behind. But it's all about just finding that rhythm to get yourself to the end. And a lot of strategy comes into play as well, which a lot of our drivers just really enjoy, being able to see where they potentially schedule their pit stops. You can see drivers all trying to get maybe a lap more or half a lap more, or get an extra stint out of their tyres and see what they can do to be able to bring it home. There's on our screen Martin Hallinan with a lot of damage as he comes back onto the track. I think Bouger was giving a bit of a flash to Green there to see if he could get himself past. I wonder what's happened to Martin in the 028 car. Elephant Power. Of course, Martin joining us from Tasmania. He's got a few other drivers who race with him in endurance racing as well. Always good to have a chat with about endurance. And he's just had a spin. He's had a big spin out of Dunlop curve on the run up the hill. So he's just touched the grass on the outside, and that's fired him into the wall on the inside. And that is going to see him with a pretty significant speed disadvantage. I think he's got steering dramas, and he may well come down the lane at the end of the lap to be able to see what he can do. We see here Duffy working his way past Daniel Collins. Collins should give him a fair bit of room. He does. And he lets him pass. Daniel Collins, of course, very active in the community as well. It's great to have him on board and racing with us. Just looking at Martin Hallen bring this car back, I'm thinking he's going to have to go down the lane. He's incredibly slow through the final chicane, and he does. So he's obviously got some sort of steering damage as Bouger continues to put pressure on Green and trying to work his way around the outside. I think that might be Trav Mason. I'm not exactly sure. Let me get myself to there. Who's gone off? It's Lindsay Kearns who's gone off, and Bouger might be a little bit unhappy with that one. Kearns has managed to get himself in between the two of them with a bit of a move down the inside where Bouger sidestepped him. We'll have to see if Bouger's pinging about his race afterwards here. It's always good fun to get in the Discord chat with the guys after the race. Of course, that community aspect for everybody. And everybody's wanting to show off their big moments, the greatest hits of the race, so to speak, and just have a chat to everybody. It's been really good, actually, in this time for the COVID situation, but also just amongst motorsport guys who like to go racing, race in different categories. Tim Weston, if anybody's wanting to support the local races his card out in Orange and Bathurst very, very regularly in kart racing, and big shout out to the Orange Kart Club and all the guys out there who race with him. They put on some great events for local and club races, so if you want to get involved in motorsport as well, you can start racing against some of the guys in this category, like the Tim Westons who are out there in the karting scene. Tim, of course, building Time Attack car as well, which we may well see in the future out on circuits around Australia. And a lot of these guys are also racing in Pulsars, which will be back in action in just a couple of weeks at Wakefield Park, it seems. And Pulsar's looking at a massive enduro to finish off the year as well. Very cheap and affordable, very affordable motorsport to get involved with and get yourself running some endurance races. We see Daniel Smith now coming past. Oh, Brett almost didn't see him there, I think. Brett's moved over to try to get the run up behind. I think it's Travis Annabelle just in front of him. It is Travis in the Motion Factory car. He's having a great time in the Ferrari. He chose the Ferrari. I probably sent him a hook, line and sinker, whereas I said I was planning to run the Ferrari and we originally planned to run a team together. And of course pulling out of it for some other commitments that I have going on at the moment. But Trav Annabelle running the Motion Factory car, just sidestepping those guys. He really enjoys his motorsport and a great member of the Blendline TV crew. If you've seen a man operating a camera in the pit lane at race events, it's highly likely to be in Trav Mason as Martin Hallen spins just in front of Dan Smith. You saw it live on the stream. He had a massive slide, and that's going to drop him a few more positions. So Martin Hallam having all sorts of dramas here at Suzuka, and that's actually giving position to Travis Annabelle to pick up 9th place in GT3. So we've got the GTE and GT3s mixing together here at this point in the race, and that has left us with all sorts going on. So incredible racing as they come down to 130R yet again. James Capron on screen, currently sitting in 2nd place in the race. I don't think he's going to be able to chase down our leader at this point in time. 17 seconds to the leader of the race, but knowing Capron, he'll give it a big shot and see what he can do. Bouget is trying to sidestep these guys at the right moment and just let past Capron and Weston. Weston has closed the gap on Capron astronomically here in the last few laps. So he is being able to pull it closed and get himself right up there. He swings around the outside of Bouget. And now we'll focus on chasing down Capron. And we'll see where he ends up with this one. We see Capron coming up through the curves. He's now up behind Green. This is a sketchy part of the track to catch him, but he doesn't show it that much on the pictures. But when you're sitting in the car, even though it is only a sim car, you really struggle to find your line through this section, and it's hard to maintain performance lap after lap. It really becomes a one-lane racetrack for this little piece under the bridge and then towards the hairpin as Capron moves to the inside, takes a lot of curb on the inside. And the thing not to forget, you can see he's outbraked himself there. He pushed so hard to try to get past Green that all of that gap he opened up to Tim Weston has now disappeared, and Weston is all over the back of him. Look for Weston to tuck in through 130R and try to make a move into the final chicane, where we've seen a plentiful amount of moves in the real world racing, of course. As they come through here, look at that, Weston right up behind him now. He's got the draft. He'll sit in behind. He doesn't need to make the move too quickly. He's still got 50 minutes of racing to go, but Weston will want to get this done and get out after Dan Smith. No doubt Weston was saving his tyres as hard as he could in the early stages of this race, and I think we're on for another one of those races that will really come together in the middle of this one. Weston is short filled in the first stop as well. He's only done a 17-second stop, which is 7 seconds shorter than the two cars in front of him. That's what's leapfrogged him back into position here. And now doing 2:01s, our leaders dropped into the 2s. They're about almost half a second slower than our leader as they battle each other. So Weston with the pace, I think, to be able to close down the gap. He's got 18 seconds to shut down though, so it's going to take a lot out of him. But if he hasn't taken tyres and he's short filled, I'd say we're going to look for him to come in just after the hour mark, or just before, sorry, the hour mark in this race, and look to run a big stint to the end. Take some fresh tyres and do the best he can towards the end of this race, as Bouget now under pressure from Proctor. He's looking to work his way through. He's sitting in 4th in the race as Proctor, and he goes around the outside again. That's very, very dirty out there. Oh, he's taking a little bit of grass, and Bouget gives him the room, but Proctor's going to be off. He's going to do all he can to control this car, and he gets it back on.
Look at that. Very
well done by Proctor. You and I both know that if you're out there like that, you're going to be having all sorts of dramas, as we see Lindsay Burns.
I thought he was gone. He looked like he was all over the place then.
It was. He's done everything he could to get that car under control and brought it back on track, as Lindsay Kearns now under pressure from Capron and Weston. Of course, Kearns a lap down, so Capron and Weston will be trying to get past him as quickly as they can. As here they come onto the straight. Now Capron will use the draft here of Kearns, pulls to the outside, goes round, and Tim Weston will get the double draft. So a little bit more pace. He shows the nose. You're not going to make a move into 130R. We saw from Brett Smith that doesn't work around the outside early in the race. And Weston just sits in behind for the moment. He's pushing him along here. We'll have to see what the lap time looks like as they come to the end of this lap. Let's see what they do as they cross the line. Our leaders drop back into the 159s. A 2 minute almost flat for him. 159.99. And these guys do 2 minute .21. So They're not much slower now than our leader. Dan Smith has obviously used the best of his edge of his tyres, and he now settling in to try to just maintain the gap that he's got. So we've got two different strategies that have gone on here. Dan Smith's strategy, which is to run away as hard as he can in the South Gundagai automotive car, and these two, Tim Weston, who has used the save the tyres strategy and probably could have done without the hit the wall part of the strategy, which he implemented earlier in the race as well. But, you know, them's the breaks in endurance racing, and it's about bringing the car home. That's what's so fantastic about racing endurance. You can focus on just bringing it home and getting your job done. So, a lot to play for. We're now coming up to two-thirds of the way through this race, as Weston, all the pressure onto the back of him there. You can see how close he pulled up behind to be able to get the run. We'll have to see what he can do. It's going to be interesting. I wonder if Weston's going to try to make the move, or he's just going to decide that maybe keeping the pressure on here. Wily campaigner is Weston, so I think he might well just focus on keeping the pressure on, because if you can keep the pressure on, you may well force a mistake, and you can just sit in behind here at Suzuka. This long straight that's coming up, or that we're on, sorry, is one where you can just sit in behind him and try to make the move here. This is a heavy braking zone. You can see there, Capron with the lock-up, so that's what Weston will want to see. He knows he's starting to force the errors now, though Capron would be thinking, I'm coming to the end of these tyres, the weight of the fuel is probably burning off as well, and he will be thinking, I'll just use up the last of these tyres. They've done 2:01s that lap as Dan Smith went faster again with 59.8s. Dion Jarvis leaving room for the pair of them. He'll have to be careful not to get too wide. Very well done by Dion Jarvis there. And he's kept the car on the aisle and sitting, of course, in 4th place in GT3. He's about 6 seconds back on Brett Smith. And Brett Smith 6 seconds further back on Dave Oliver. So I think my suggestion for the race right now is that Tim Weston's just going to sit there. He's going to try to make up as much of this gap on Dan Smith as he can in the final sector of the race. They'll be coming close to pit stops soon, I would suggest, and like their final pit stop, that'll get him to the end of the race, and he'll use that, take the new set of tyres and try to run as hard as he can to the finish of this one, while also not having to fill further than the rest of the guys, because what he's done is he's found himself in a position where he can just draft James Capron. I think he has the pace on Capron to be able to sit in behind him, and he'll be able to draft James Capron and just keep saving that little bit of fuel, that 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 litre a lap, and that will enable him to just claw back maybe that extra lap of fuel that he didn't put in the last stop, and that'll keep him in position. So we'll definitely be able to see this time by whether he sits in behind Capron or decides to charge his way past him. He shows the nose again down into 138. He's going to do it actually. No, he's not. He decides to back out of it. He looked for a second there like he was going to commit to the move and make his way through, and then he decided to just back out of it at the last moment. So Weston continues to sit behind Capron. All of this though is handing Dan Smith about a half second to a second a lap. Tim Weston in the pit lane. There you go. He's blinked earlier than everybody else, and we'll have to see what he decides to do now. So last time down the pit lane for Capron was lap 21. Dan Smith was lap 20. Adam Proctor, who goes by, and Anthony Holm as well. So Weston now back to 5th place. Proctor pitted on lap 18, which is not far after our GT3 competitors. It looks like Dan Collins is in the lane as well. And we'll have to see how long is this stop for Weston. This will be the race changer. You can see him there sitting in the lane. Now, let's not forget he stopped for 17 seconds last time. The car's gone up, so he's taking tyres as well. Car drops. He's only taken fronts, 22 seconds. I would say that everybody else took their front tyres then at stop 1, and Weston's decided to take his tyres at stop 2 compared to everybody else now, basing that off the times. So Tim Weston, fresh fronts. He'll have to deal with a bit of imbalance for the opening lap, and then we'll see how he falls in as Bourget all over the back of Russ Green, who goes wide and fires himself off through the gravel trap, comes back on. Bourget will be whooping in the seat to the rest of the guys in the chat room there. No doubt that's gone straight into the highlights reel for him to showcase, as at the Degner curve, Russ Green just ran wide. Bourget would probably say it's pressure, and everybody else will say that Russ just made a little mistake. So we'll have to see how the discussion goes post-race with that one. Dion goes to the outside, Dion Jarvis, and lets through Anthony Holm, sitting in 4th place in the race. Now Dion Jarvis sitting in behind, he's got Martin Hallam behind him. Martin a lap down on Dion, so he probably doesn't need to worry about him too much. And Martin, being a great campaigner, won't force the issue or do anything there that will cause a drama. I just saw Brett Smith charging into the lane as well, so it'll be interesting to see what happens to Brett now with how this plays out. We're just passing the hour mark in this race, so 40 minutes left to go. Tim Weston has pitted right on the edge of the fuel window, I should say, and he'll be looking to use his fresh tyre life to make up the gap to Dan Smith, gambling on that he'll be able to make that work. Brett Smith and Russ Green have both come down the lane, as we see Dion Jarvis here still sitting in 3rd place, was 4th in GT3, 13th overall in the race. Ooh, a bit of a slide there up the hill. And he's got Martin Hallam behind him. Proctor working on the back of Lindsay Kearns. He'll probably pass him comfortably down through this section. And there is Duffy. Oh, no. Back to Dion Jarvis. He's got... Oh, no, Duffy. I'm not sure where we're going here, actually.
Sorry, mate. I was just away from the keyboard for a second and the auto camera was on, so who would you like to look at? Duffy?
I'm not sure. Yeah, at the moment.
There we go. We are on Duffy. There's a good little...
So Duffy's working his way past Daniel Collins, who's a lap down on him at the moment. So Daniel Collins will give him plenty of room, no doubt. And Duffy squeezes his way past. Garth Duffy sitting in 6th place. After that, those couple of errors we saw in the early stages, obviously cold tyre dramas for him. He'll be kicking himself with that one. But his lap times have stayed pretty smooth and consistent, just doesn't quite have the pace of our leader, but Duffy's still doing 2-minute flat lap times, so he'll sit in 6th place. I dare say what's going to happen here is we'll have to watch that final pit stop and see where everybody comes out. It's all about that last pit stop now, and that'll give us a run to the line.
You would think that my assistant director, the inbuilt camera coordinator, would do a bit better than just mashing scenes
right,
for 30 seconds.
Got a little bit confusing there for a minute as we tried to figure out who was where and what was happening, but Duffy now with a bit of a gap, so he's looking like he's quite comfortable. Just scanning the list, and it doesn't look like we've got any real gaps that are super close together here.
No, it's not many close together. Everyone's a bit spread out.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, we're circulating at the moment to try to get to that final pit stop, so it will all be coming out in the wash. Bourget is in the lane, so we'll see what sort of pit stop he does. He's still in the in, hasn't done his stop yet. Who came down before? Brett Smith came down earlier, didn't he? Where is he? He was a 53-second stop that time, so that's a bit of a longer stop for him. I wonder what's going on there. Unless it's just a longer fuel and everyone's decided to short fuel for the early stop. But he now, with a lot of work to do, if he has to catch up 53 seconds, it'll be interesting to see what sort of stop time Bourget does here, because that'll give us a real hint into what taking tyres does to the time. No doubt, I don't think anybody in GT3 took tyres in the first stop. Bourget's at 38 seconds, 39, 40, so he's not... Brett Smith, 53 seconds stop time is not looking too bad. Bourget, 48 seconds. That says to me he's probably not taken the full 4 tyres, and Brett Smith has, as our leader comes into the lane in GT3. So Dimitri Agathos fires it in with 38 minutes remaining, which puts him on a slightly shorter fuel stop for the end. and he'll no doubt take 2 tyres on the front as well, as he now comes down the lane.
Dimitri's just cruising his way to the finish line at the moment. Do you think there'll be anyone able to put up a fight against him, or do you think he just has to hold on to it at this point?
Well, him and Dave Oliver just did 2 minutes 6 lap times on the last lap, which I would suggest means that they've eased out of the throttle a little bit. We'll have to see, because of course qualifying pace, what did we get qualifying? 201, 202, so they've eased out of it a little bit. No doubt the temperature is causing them to lose their tyres from under them late in this race. Now we'll have to see what Brett Smith can close in. Oh, a lot of smoke from Dave Oliver there. I wonder what's happened if he's sitting in the lane and he's actually
just finishing up
in the lane.
Finishing up the last tyres.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if he's just decided he's going to do a skid in the pit lane or what's going on, but masses of smoke from Dave Oliver as Dimitri Agathos returns to it. No doubt Dave will have a story behind that one. Car stops smoking now and takes his tyres and does a little skid as he leaves. So Dimitri with the 46 second stop, Dave with a 47, so they've only taken fronts. Budge got a 48 second, Russ Green with a 46 second, and Brett Smith, who is now in third with a 53 second time, pit stop time. So he no doubt took 4 tyres as he tries to chase these 2 guys down in front. Pushed a little bit wide though through the back section of the circuit, so not sure if he's going to be able to catch them. It's quite a big gap that he actually has. I think he's got 30 seconds at the moment to Dimitri Agathos, who we see on our screen in the Nova employment car. Brett Smith is 30 seconds behind. Dimitri's got a 15 second gap to Dave Oliver behind, and the rest of the field spread out quite a bit at the moment. So it's just going to be a case now of run to the line and see who's what. Dion Jarvis leads our way in GT3, so he's gone a lap further yet again. We'll see if he comes down the lane. No, he doesn't, so he's going to get 2 laps further on this stint. And we'll have to see what that does to him, because he now has come down the lane, so he's got a lap further again. The thing with going a lap further means that his pit stop might be a little bit shorter. I don't think he's going to jump Dimitri Agathos, who's now coming through the final chicane, but he might be able to get himself out amongst the battle with Brett Smith, so that'll be one to watch. And we'll keep an eye on the timing and see what he's able to do. As here's Dave Oliver, our pole sitter, lost out to his teammate in the early stages and really hasn't been able to bring it back since. So after complaining all that week that he hadn't got much laps in, it's been very obvious that DDD Racing has done some undercover practice and testing and been able to get themselves a fair bit of speed out of their cars, as Dion Jarvis does a 34 second pit stop. So I don't think Dion took tyres, he just took fuel, or he's short fueled and only taken the fronts. So we'll have to see what happens there for Dion, as Dave Oliver works himself through the curves and up the hill, sitting in behind. Might actually check where we're off to next week on my notes in the group. I'll just click around a little bit here and figure myself out as we watch Dave Oliver come through the back section of the circuit. We'll try to break it down to comfortable speed through the hairpin. Let's see, what have we got? So coming up for round 4, we're heading to Silverstone, the new GP circuit again. Then we'll head to Daytona, Watkins Glen, Detroit, Phillip Island, Mount Panorama, and we'll finish the year off on the VLN Nordschleife circuit. So plenty of races still to come in ProCar GT Season 3. And no doubt we'll see a few of our regular guys back next week. A few guys, of course, with returning to work. We're not all based in Victoria and stuck at home. So some of us, even the Victorian ones, getting to go back to work for a little bits and pieces. And that's ultimately meant that not everybody's here week on week at the moment. As we look off the nose of Dave Oliver's car coming down through turn 1.
I thought while we were a little sort of separated within the pack, we might go for a bit of a lap.
Yeah, so we can just sit in and see how Dave's doing.
And for those who haven't been to the track, which is probably many of us, so you can have a look at what it's like there around. One thing I do have to say I love about iRacing is sometimes when they get the weather looking good, it's just such a nice day, very green, drive around, very relaxing to watch.
Definitely a lot of fun. It'll be interesting as well to see with the newest updates at the end of this season what it's like to have crowd ambient noise in amongst the broadcast.
Well, it looks like I'll be spending some more money to upgrade to processing power from this.
It's always the way, right? You've got to chase the technology.
Well, that's it. One thing I've just noticed is their use of either air or bottle bags around the track. Something that interests me, having been at QR and the use of bottle bags there.
Yeah.
Didn't notice
that. Interesting, yeah.
Anyway, we will have a flick to someone else and we'll see if, once again, hey, if there's someone you want to ride on board with, let us know in the chat and we can flick to them. So
Dion Jarvis has just been overtaken by Brett Smith,
here we go.
which might be interesting to go on board. There you go, with Dion, as they run down the back straight. I'm popping a few messages here.
Very slow car back there. That was, I didn't see.
Sorry, I looked away from the screen for a moment.
It's always the way.
I was trying to find out what happened to Jonathan Hovey. Oh, Dion with a massive spin out of the complex right in front of Dan Smith. Dion gets the car back on the road, but that's really unfortunate for him. He's still sitting 4th in the race for GT3. A great race for him so far. I think it was Nick Filippetto who was very slow down the back straight, struggling with Suzuka circuit. But Dion just got passed by Brett Smith in the last lap and was probably trying to accelerate a bit to stay with him, and unfortunately has that little bit of a spin. I think he's got a fairly reasonable gap at the moment back to Russ Green. What's he got? 6 seconds back to Russ Green, so he should be okay without any drama from the rear if he can just get his head down and focus on it. But unfortunately, Dion there, not what we want to see late in the race, as we see Proctor now come around. Capron has gone to the lane.
Now, has Proctor worked his way into second, or is he down a pit stop or something like that?
He is in second place. I'm just going to have a look at the timing and try to figure out where he's at.
This is.
No, he's only pitted once, so Proctor second outright. No, he's worked his way back up to second. So what's happened there? Oh, yeah, Tim Weston went to the pit. I dare say Holm has had a spin. Let's try and figure out what's gone on to Anthony Holm. I'll have a rewind through my... Oh no, Capron is in the lane, that's why. There we go.
So,
Capron was in second place and he is now in the lane.
As we discussed earlier, this is classic Adam Proctor, just sneaking his way back up when the time...
Exactly. That's it, that's how he runs. And he's actually lapping slightly faster than Dan Smith out in front at the moment, so 27 seconds behind him, but yeah, he might close down the gap. The interesting thing is going to be, once Dan Smith finally pits, where he pops out with Tim Weston. Because Tim Weston is only lapping slightly quicker than Dan Smith at the moment, which says to me that he probably doesn't have the outright pace of Smith to be able to bring home a victory.
So we've just chucked up the times on screen so you can have a look at home, and you'll see that Adam Proctor is putting down, and now Dan Smith as well, almost putting down, close just off their best times now.
Yeah.
Second off.
So they're pushing hard, no doubt. I would say Dan Smith is looking to come to the lane shortly then, if that's the case.
Oh, there we go. Proctor's in.
So Proctor hits the lane. Anthony Holm hits the lane behind him. Tim Weston has leapt James Capron with those stops and has 10 seconds on him. So I would suggest that Tim Weston is going to comfortably come around these guys. And we'll have to see what the gap looks like for him to finish this race off. As Colby Cohen goes through into second place in the race. As our guys sit in the pit lane and wait. It's agonising in the pit lane once you're actually towards the end of the race and you're just wanting to go. Adam Proctor with a 15-second stop is already on his way out. That's an incredibly short stop to finish this race. I mean, we've still got 26 minutes, so Adam Proctor just taking 16 seconds. I wonder what he's done there. Tim Weston is now behind him. The gap is only 3 seconds. And I think Tim Weston will also be wondering how Proctor has managed to come out in front. So I wonder whether Proctor was actually playing the massive fuel strategy game and trying to see if he could just be able to bring the car home. We'll have to see what happens towards the end of this one. It's very intriguing at this moment in time, isn't it? As Proctor works his way around up the hill and back down to go under the bridge here. Looks like there's a little bit of lap traffic between him and Weston at this moment in time. That's Martin Hallen between them, so Proctor with a little bit of a gap, which he should be able to, he'll focus on maintaining, no doubt. He's actually pulled it out slightly to 6 seconds now. Between him and Tim Weston. So we'll have to see how that develops as the race continues. And let's see how this one comes to an end. We've got 25 minutes remaining in the race. Proctor sitting in 4th place. He is from the lead, he is 1:06 and closing on our leader. So Proctor sitting 1:06 behind. It's been about a 52-second stop, so they'll probably be 10 seconds behind our leader once he pits. You see him coming down the main straight now. Our leader's working his way through the back section of the circuit. He's come out of the hairpin and now heading towards the sweeper. So that gives you an idea of the gap. They're pretty much at opposing ends of the Suzuka figure 8 here.
And Proctor looks like he's about to take on Duffy as well. He's not far off.
No, he isn't. He's only 1.8 seconds behind. I'll be very interested to see what Proctor's first lap is once he actually clears. Of course, when you do an out lap, in lap, it counts the time in the lane as part of the lap. So he's done a 2:37 last lap, but that was with his pit exit. As Dan Smith continues on his merry way, and Proctor continues to close this gap to Duffy, who we said in the early stages has just had a drama of a race here for the PROCAR GT Season 3, Round 3 at Suzuka. And Proctor is going to try to capitalise on the fact that Duffy has not been having his best time, though the gap sort of stabilised at 1.9 seconds at this stage, so maybe Garth Duffy's started to get his head around everything and lapping comfortably. He's doing 2-minute flat lap times, but Dan Smith out in front in the South Gundagai Automotive supported car. 1:59 laps pretty much all of this race, so it's just meant he's been eking out half a second to a second every lap of the race, which just becomes incredibly hard to battle with as the race continues on. You know, you just eke out a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, and at the end of the day you turn around and you've got 15 seconds on everybody, which is what Dan Smith has been able to do. We'll stay with Adam Proctor, who's closed it to 1.7 in the last lap. So we'll see what his time is as he comes across the line. Garth Duffy in front did a 2:36, and Adam Proctor does a 2:14. Tim Weston behind's last lap was a 2-minute .43. So they're all still losing time.
It looked like Colby Callum just had a bit of a spin or something. We caught the end of it just then.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with Colby there. Have a look as we... Oop, now I'm clicking around.
He looked very slow and it looked like dirt was flicking off his tyres, so I...
yeah. He may well have had... What's that? Yeah, he has. He's had a spin out of turn 2. Complete rotation of the grass on the inside, so...
That's not... and Brandon Proctor are taking advantage of this and they're catching up.
We're right up behind him. Well, he knows the car into the barrier as well. It doesn't look like there's too much damage from what we're seeing in the pictures in front of you here, but he's definitely dropped right into their sights now, and with a stop to go, Proctor will be sitting in a comfortable second place as long as this continues. So Proctor will have second. Tim Weston is going to be 5 seconds behind Proctor, with a lot of work to do to try to catch up. So I have a feeling that this one's going to shake out with Dan Smith taking what will be a comfortable victory. He's almost had nobody match him for pace this round at Suzuka, just staying in the 159's 2-minute flat sort of space, which just when you think about it, is doing it lap after lap after lap. It's absolutely incredible to see that he's been able to just keep pushing it like that. So hats off to him, and we'll see what he can do to continue on for the rest of the season. I'm sure it'll help him jump up the point standings after what was probably not the best result at Spa, and also Le Mans. He had a few dramas at Le Mans and dropped a fair way down the field. But if he picks up the 200 points here, he will leapfrog himself up to 550 points, which with Garth Duffy sitting probably 4th in the race at the moment, he's going to get 180, 170 points, 177-ish points, I would suspect, which will put him at 560. So, yeah, it's going to be right on between those two. Dan Smith's going to leapfrog to about 550 and Duffy will still be on about 560. So it's going to go from being a 35-point gap to 20 points. And that's going to change the game as Duffy now looks to the outside of Colby Callum. He's getting racy on the back of him now. This is for position between these two. Of course, both of them haven't been down the pit lane yet. So Proctor has the comfort of being able to just sit behind and let these two fight it out. Duffy cannot just let that happen. He's got to try to get past Colby Callum. Our leader is in the pit lane. We'll keep track of that one for you on the timing as these guys race around. These two, Colby Callum and Garth Duffy, have both had issues through these sweepers where they've lost the rear of the car. And they'll be focusing on trying to make sure that they optimise their run. I think Duffy's going to want to try to make a move here. You'll have to think that if you're close enough, it might be worth pitting and trying to leap on the strategy and see what you can do about it. Proctor will just sit in behind. He doesn't need to do anything. So we take this great aerial camera chasing these guys down. Helicopter view down the back straight towards 130R. You've got to get your line right through here into that chicane. As Duffy runs a little bit wide, Proctor's a lot wider than the two of them through there. And Duffy, not able to do anything yet, sits in behind Colby Callum. Look at the way Proctor gains under brakes. A lot of us find that BMW one of the hardest cars to brake, but obviously Proctor's making it work for him here. And he's now right up in behind these two, with not very long left in this race. This is where all the guys start talking about. You start really feeling that you've done a 100-minute race in the last 20 minutes of it, because you can really tell that you've been sitting and trying to focus. It's like driving a real car in a lot of regards. Your legs are starting to get tired, your hands are tired from holding the wheel. Of course, you've sweated a fair bit as well during the hour and 30-odd minutes that we've done to get to this point. 18 minutes left in the race, and Duffy and Colby Callum are battling for position, which will ultimately probably be 5th or 6th in the race. So those two will be wanting to focus on that and not let Proctor just drive past them here. Proctor will be hoping, I think, that these two will come to the pit lane at some point and just let the clear air open for him, because he still wants to get his head down and chase Dan Smith, who has come out of the lane 24 seconds in front of these guys, which just shows you the pace that he has had at Suzuka that no one's been able to match. As Darren Jarvis got damage to the front of his car there, he has. What has happened to Dion Jarvis? I'm going to scroll back through and just try to figure that one out. He's got massive damage to the front of the Ferrari, and that's an absolute disaster for him. It doesn't seem to be that slow actually, but he's still got the front of it's all missing. He must have had a spin in contact with the wall somewhere after his last pit stop and after we stopped looking at him, as Duffy continues to sit in behind Colby Cohen. And you can see Dion Jarvis just sitting in behind them as well. So he obviously hasn't lost enough pace to warrant him going to the pit lane. Nick Filippetto just in front of him. He seems to have had a tough evening here at Suzuka. It seems to be one of those tracks that if you can't tame it, it definitely tames you. And Duffy now. Oh, a little bit of a slide out of that one. Down through the chicane. So Proctor sitting in behind, still just sitting there. I don't think Proctor's going to push the issue here. He's got second place in this race wrapped up, as long as Weston doesn't close the gap. That's the only time that Proctor will start trying to force something, if he starts to see Weston looming a little bit too large in the rear view mirror. I'm not 100% sure what's happened to Dion Jarvis. I've gone a lot. Oh, there we go. He's had a spin at... We'll just bring up the map. He's had a spin at the Degner curve just before it comes back under the bridge, where we've seen a lot of people have spins throughout this race. It's amazing how there's a couple of corners that seem to catch everybody out, and that corner is one of them. The guy's just running through it now, so he's spun and hit the wall on the inside. Doesn't seem to have lost too much pace though, which is great for him, because he is still sitting 6th place now in GT3. He lost 5th to Michael Budge in that accident, so he'll be kicking himself. Still the highest place Ferrari overall, and really flying the Ferrari flag high is Dion Jarvis, and hopefully we'll see him getting a top 3 position in that car before too long. Of course, heading to Silverstone next week, it's going to be interesting to see what cars come out on top in that one, as we see Duffy continuing to work on the back of Colby Cohen. These guys going very late in the race. I have to wonder if they're trying to make it on one stop, because with only 15 minutes remaining, it's going to be a very, very short splash and dash if they do come into the lane.
Absolutely, it's hard to pull the camera away. There's just such a close little battle
It's
going
just like
on
it's
here.
pretty much the only battle on track at the moment, so it's worth watching to see what any of these guys do. Who blinks first? Does anyone blink? Oh, they blinked together. So obviously both of them decided to run as far as they could on strategy, and that releases Proctor from behind. Tim Weston has dropped 2 seconds to Proctor, so obviously they weren't holding Proctor up very much, and Weston doing 201s, while our leader still in the 159s. So it just goes to show you that Dan Smith has really got this racetrack sorted out for him. And it's going to be a battle in the pit lane between Duffy and Colby Cohen.
Oh, getting very sideways there,
Weston,
though.
yeah, Dan Smith he only has one way of going, and that's full noise. So he'll be going full noise all the way to the finish and seeing what he can do. Duffy and Colby Cohen have come out of the lane, line of stand, they're nose to tail. They've done a 12-second stop each, so that battle will continue as they come out through lap traffic. We see Duffy on screen now. There's Trav Annabelle to the outside. Let Duffy go. Pulled to the outside to let all this traffic past. And now it's going to be a race to the finish between these two. The gloves are off. So our leading pack, Dan Smith leads the way. 25 seconds back to Adam Proctor. Then we've got a further 7 seconds back to Tim Weston. Anthony Holm is a further 21 seconds back. Trav Mason, who hasn't pitted yet, 5 seconds behind Anthony Holm. Colby Cohen sitting in 6th place, which will become effectively 5th. And then right behind him, Garth Duffy, who you see on screen. And we're right on board with Duffy as he comes under the bridge and continues to charge at the back of Colby Cohen. They've got Trav Mason just in front of them there, who's fighting them for position. No doubt Trav has at least another lap of fuel left in that BMW, and then another lap, and maybe another. He likes to push the fuel strategy, does Trav, especially in our endurance racing. Could be accused of sometimes leaving his teammates a little bit high and dry, but, you know, doesn't have to be accused of that. Just it could be mentioned that that might be something that he has done on occasion. Not that I'm holding any sort of grudge or need to return the favour at any
Some
point?
sort of bit chicane.
Yes. Well, what happens at Le Mans stays at Le Mans, you know, so no, Trav's enjoying his step up to GTE. He of course ran GT3 in Season 2. Wanted to race the GTE cars and decided he'd get himself the BMW and have a run around. He's enjoying getting his head around the no ABS and how these cars operate as he pulls to the lane. You see that from Duffy's onboard camera. So Trav Mason will go and serve his final pit stop with 12 minutes remaining. No doubt it'll be a very short thrill. And that leaves us with approximately 6 laps left in this race. And Garth Duffy doing all he can to chase down Colby Cullen. You have to say with how evenly matched these two seem to be at this track, it's going to take a mistake from Colby to drop the position. And he'll just be focusing on bringing the car home, making sure that he keeps it straight from here on in. You don't have time anymore, like it doesn't matter anymore if you have a fast repair or not. You don't want to be coming down the lane again because that will sink your race. Duffy just right up behind him. We were in the car here. You can see he's only about 3 car lengths back. He closes under the brakes and through this tricky right-hand complex downhill. The camber changes twice in the corner, it seems. It feels a bit odd when you first roll out. The track a lot tighter and narrower than you think it is as well. As you see, Duffy just outbraked himself a little bit there. I think he got caught short on how early Colby Cullen brakes for that corner and just ran himself a little bit wide. But now it's time to focus on what your run's going to be like. Back down the straight towards 130R and see if you can make any sort of gain in the draft. He's only 0.4 of a second behind him here, so he'll be able to be well inside the draft if he can make it work down the main straight and make a move at the final chicane. So run through there, look at the rubber up on the road. Of course, there'll be marbles off the track for these guys here. With this racing simulator, it is a simulated racing. Oh, Colby Cullen with the mistake that we were talking about. He locks up into the final chicane, and you can see Duffy, got too much wheel spin out of there as well, and has opened up the gap. So I think Garth Duffy just got a little bit excited, thought he could make the move, couldn't quite get it done, and got on the gas to try to get the drive, and unfortunately for him, that dropped him more gap to Cullen than he probably gained in that little chicane. So Colby Cullen can breathe a little bit easier as they make their run back up the hill through these curves as they climb quite steeply actually from turn 1 and 2 up towards the run that then goes under the bridge. A lot of elevation change in this circuit on a very narrow footprint. Of course, being able to go and watch motorsport here, you'll be able to see a fair percentage of the track as they run past the first wheel and back down to make those tight right-handers. You see it from the overhead shots. Got to wipe off a lot of speed on an awkward braking zone. Come under the circuit and then we head up towards the hairpin, which is another awkward braking zone as you have that right-hand kink and you've got to brake hard to take the left-hander. They're coming up around Dion Jarvis again, who's sitting 6th in GT3. Doing lap times that are about 10 seconds slower than the cars around him, so he's obviously just nursing the car home. He's got a fairly significant gap to Martin Hallen behind him, so he should be able to bring that one home. He goes very wide to let these guys go, accepts the off track, just gives them all the room.
Just says, I want no part of this, you guys.
Yeah, exactly. The last thing he probably wants is to be involved in something that changes the race at the top end of town. It's the last thing any of us want when you're towards the end of one of these ones. Now Trav Mason has come out of the pits and sitting in 7th place behind these guys, so he's in a very comfortable 7th at the moment. As we see Duffy continue to work on the back of Colby Cullen as the laps and time tick away here. 8 minutes remaining in the race, so approximately 4 laps left depending on where Dan Smith is. It's Dimitri Agathos. He's had an off track, sorry. I was just saw him flash on my timing like he'd gone off the whole thing, but it looks like he just went off track and had a little bit of a moment.
That Mercedes sounds like a diesel just chugging along. Chugging its way to the end every time we
exactly, yeah.
to it.
all they are is all torque, you know, so you just got to make sure you can keep the rolling speed up to it. And he's been able to open 20 seconds, so obviously Dimitri focused on race runs throughout the week, just very, very quietly in the Team DDD Motorsport chat. He wasn't as chatty in the forum as he usually is throughout the week, so obviously the change to the Merc, he's been getting his head around it and making sure that he could come out and pick up as many championship points as he possibly could. No doubt he'll tell us it was just JRT and his computer programs running in the background that he has with him at all moments. He'll try to download them to as many devices as he can for his real-world racing, you'd have to expect as well. Dimitri Agathos leading the way comfortably here. Of course, we're used to seeing him in a really potent Subaru WRX on the national production car stage. He won earlier this year at Sydney Motorsport Park in that car in the wet and dry conditions. And is very, very capable behind the wheel of that one. And also racing in the Pulsars as well. And getting some good results though. I think he prefers, at the current time, that iRacing doesn't of course have rain, because after going out in the Pulsar in the rain, his window's fogged up and all sorts of dramas for him.
Well, that's actually been a point of contention I've seen in the iRacing community, with roughly half the people wanting them to implement rain and half not.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they do bring in rain. I can understand in some regards some of their reasons for not, but at the same time, it would be nice to be able to have that variable change to the conditions, of course.
Sometimes it rains and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, exactly. You never know what's going to happen. We've seen plenty of real race world events throughout the years, so, you know.
For those at home wondering about that, though, I do believe that the argument against it isn't that they don't like running in the rain. It's that when iRacing runs its seasons, if somebody is racing on the dry and somebody's on the wet, then the people who get to race on the dry have an overall advantage in that same round. So that's the argument I've seen. I bet it's an excuse, though. I think I just don't want to drive in the wet.
I was going to say, surely you can make it so that they make it so every session starts with the same weather conditions anyway, so they must be able to program it in if they really wanted to.
Exactly, so I'm not sure, but that seemed to be the argument that was going around.
Yeah, that's it. So, having a look through the field behind Dimitri Agathos, who leads the way in GT3, he's got 20 seconds to Dave Oliver behind our pole sitter in Team 668 car. Behind that, Brett Smith, who's bringing home Team Brett Smith Racing 13 seconds further back. Russ Green holding up the Green Machine team in 4th place. Bouget is back in 5th place. Dion Jarvis limping the Ferrari home in 6th. He should be able to hold off Martin Hallen behind, who I think is also limping at home here. Losing a couple of seconds a lap to him, but not enough to be able to charge him down. And then Daniel Collins, Damon May still out there. Travis Annabelle running around in the Motion Factory car. And then Daniel Lewison, who of course quit the race, is behind that, and Jonathan Hovey's still sitting in the lane, so he's obviously about, or has just left his sim and decided to go and do something else for a couple of hours after starting the race, which, you know, is one of those things that he might have done. As we take a look here at Colby Cole continuing to hold off Garth Duffy. It's our main battle in the race, a battle for 5th position in the race. Colby Cole has moved himself to 6th place after a reasonable qualifying effort. Where was he in qualifying? He was 8th overall in the qualifying setup, so qualifying 8th to get himself up to a reasonable position in the race of 5th. So he's gained a few positions and shown that he can be able to drive his way through after a couple of mistakes as well, but a fair percentage of the cars on the course have made a couple of mistakes throughout this one. A very, very difficult track not to make any mistakes with. But we're coming to the end of 100 minutes of endurance here. 2.5 minutes left on the clock, so just a couple of laps remaining. And that'll be giving us the end of this one. Dan Smith probably going to put 2 more laps on the board. So Duffy, with not much time to be able to do something about it, I think he's just waiting now and hoping that he can pressure a mistake from Colby Cole. We saw the one mistake into the chicane. He locked the brakes Wasn't able to do anything about it though, with the drive unfortunately not under him as he ran out of that final chicane onto the main straight. But a great race here at Suzuka for round 3 of the PROCAR GT eChampionship. Thanks to the support of South Gundagai Automotive this season, Oztrack, Hovey Motorsport, Primal Joe's Coffee of course on board as well. It's fantastic to have the support of all of them, and AWS, Affordable Web Solutions. If you need a website built, have a talk to Cass at AWS. Long supporter of motorsport, of course, making sure that we can all go racing in these difficult times online. As Duffy, look at that, he's trying to find the draft to get himself onto the back of Colby Calm. He's obviously putting just enough pressure on for Colby to feel that he is there. Oh, very, very wide for Duffy though. He's pushed hard through 1 and 2 to try to close that last bit of the gap. And you can see how that has opened up the gap on the run up the hill yet again. And it's going to be Duffy sitting in behind Colby. He'll try to get the run up the hill. Colby, a little bit of a slide there through this left right uphill section into the Dunlop curve and then up over the hill, top of the crest of the hill here. We're still a little bit lower than the turn straight because of course we drop down here and go underneath it. And you can see Duffy has closed the gap, misses the line a little bit, but he's been able to keep the pace up, and now he's all over the back of Colby Colm. I dare say he's going to try to have a run to the final chicane. If he can sit in the draft, he'll look at making a run out of 130R, and he is right up behind him as Dan Smith crosses the line for I think what will become the final lap of the race. But we can't take our eyes away from this one. Garth Duffy all over the back of Colby Colm. It's the gap, there's nothing between the two of them. He'll look to get the drive onto the back straight. Let's see what he can do. He's closed the gap right up. Colby Colm focusing on exit. Duffy focusing on mid-corner pace. He's right there in the draft as they come down the back straight. 130R is going to be the position where he needs to get the car into the exact right spot. Look out for the aero wash on the front wheels. He'll lose a little bit of turn in. He uses all the road, and now he needs to try to fire it to the inside. He's not going to be able to do it. Colby Colm's away to it. They both knock brakes. Colby Colm just took the angle away from him there, and Duffy will have one more chance to try to get this position as the laps tick away. We're at 100 minutes now, so I would suspect that our next time our leader crosses the line, it is over. He's round the back of the course, so we've still got a fair bit of time before he gets back here. He's got 22 seconds on Adam Proctor behind him, who yet again has bubbled up at the end of this race after starting on the front row of the grid. So Proctor's been able to retain his position. Might have been a little bit closer to Dan Smith if he hadn't have had that contact with Daniel Learson in the early stages of the race. As Duffy closes the gap, he's going to be doing all he can to stay with him. Dan Smith is coming through 130R now towards the end of this race, so he'll be coming towards the checkered flag. Our leader in the South Gundagai Automotive car is into the final chicane on what is probably the last lap of the race. He's coming through the final chicane now towards the finish line. We'll have to see Dan Smith coming down through the final corner. Here he comes across the line, and I think this may well be the end of the race. He's well sleeves from side to side and takes another victory. So Dan Smith with a comfortable one there. We go back to Duffy and Colby Cohen as the racing crashes engage at the first turn. All the guys sliding their cars in there for a good old time. But Duffy now right up behind Colby Cohen. This is his last opportunity to try to get the position. He's got to sit in the drive. Colby got great drive out of that chicane, out of that sweeper, onto the back straight. You can see he feels the pressure. He's defending slightly to the inside. It's going to be all about this run through 130R. It takes a lot of curb, both of them right on the limit. Look how sideways Colby Cohen is, and he's off. He's fired himself off into the grass, across the reeds, and sideways into the final chicane, and that's going to give Garth Duffy the position. Colby Cohen does everything to try to keep him behind, and Duffy takes it right at the line. Disaster for Colby Cohen. He'll be able to bring it home though in 6th place, but Garth Duffy gets 5th right at the end of this one. What a result. Dimitri Agathos is coming through the final chicane to win GT3 as well. Dave Oliver 23 seconds behind him, so Dimitri Agathos keeping it quiet with how he was maintaining his car and what he was going to do for between the rounds, and he's been able to pick up a victory in the Nova Employment car. So there you go. A huge end to the race after we watched it boiling away, the battle for 5th place. But Dan Smith is the one who will take home the chocolates in GTE, and outright as well. You can see Garth Duffy has done some burnouts down at turn 1. All the guys loved a little bit of run around after the race. So South Gundagai Automotive, Dan Smith brings it home. Adam Proctor, 2nd place overall. Tim Weston in 3rd. Anthony Holm 4th. Garth Duffy picks up 5th place. Colby Cohen behind that. Trav Mason, James Capron, Nick Filippetto and Lindsay Kearns rounding out your GTE field. Dimitri Agathos takes the win in GT3. Dave Oliver, Brett Smith, Russ Green, Michael Bouget, Dion Jarvis is in 6th place. He managed to bring the car home in front of Martin Hallinan, Daniel Collins, Damon May, Travis Annabelle and Daniel Learson, our first DNF, while Jonathan Hovey continues to sit in the pit lane. He'll come back to the car and wonder where everybody went at the end of this one. So a great 3rd round here for the ProCar GT Endurance Championship, brought to you by Do a Drift Esports and Blendline TV. We've got plenty more rounds to come every night, a Tuesday at 8 PM, so make sure to tune in if you'd like to watch, or get involved if you'd like to race. And we'll see you next time. A great round here at Suzuka. We look forward to your company for round 4 as we head to Silverstone.